Welcome, everybody. We are back to another great episode, I think, of The Bird's Nest. Today, I have Cassie Moreno with me here from RevPartners. She is the go-to-market creative manager. And we're going to talk a little bit about sales and marketing. A little bit. We're going to weave it in because she is phenomenal at what she does. But the real reason I really reached out to Cassie after seeing her stuff on LinkedIn, and she's a great follow, is because of kind of her story, of her journey of from theater to politics to sales through a whole lot of challenges and now is thriving. And I really wanted to come in and dive in with her. So Cassie, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
What an incredible intro, Dave.
Oh, I
I'm so
suck at my
flattered.
intros. Don't get me wrong.
Thank
My
you for
intros are
having me.
horrible.
That was I was like, wow, I want to interview her. That was cool. Thank you.
People are going to stay around now, right?
Yeah,
So
I hope, hopefully.
hey, no. So no, but seriously, like when I dove into your stuff and I really really started with something I don't know what caught my eye on on your stuff. It was definitely when you went down to Savannah and you were heading down there for a couple of weeks, and Amanda Bagley, who was on with us on the podcast with me here, and you went down there. Let's just start there because I think that's really going to drive the entire conversation, right?
Yeah.
You're crushing your career, you're doing everything. Why'd you go down there?
Yeah, totally. So I think backing way up, I had been, we're going to go back to COVID. Backing up to COVID, I had been in politics and the world shut down and I saw everyone around me, transition to remote work, travel to these different places, try living in different cities for a bit. And I was working on a political campaign at the time that was still very much in person for a lot of it. We were on the streets in the neighborhoods in masks doing a lot of community service work at the time, but it was really kind of a turning point for me in realizing that that work was never able to be remote. Political work is always going to be on the ground in person. And so, fast forward, a big motivator for getting into tech, getting into sales and marketing was this ability to work in a hybrid environment or work fully remotely. So, I spent a couple years kind of working on this vision, breaking in as a BDR at one company that was hybrid. It was an excellent experience. I was still living in New York. And then finally getting the role at RevPartners almost a year ago and really just wanting to take this opportunity to try out and see as many different places in the US as I possibly could. So I spent a good portion of 2024 traveling. I did an insane road trip over the summer for like 3 months, all through the western Pacific Northwest of the United States. So Oregon, Washington, up into Canada, did Banff and Yoho National Parks, came down and did Yellowstone, kind of all of these incredible places, and then didn't really have a plan for December after all of that was said and done. So I chose Savannah because, it's historic. I'm from New England. There was a huge draw to kind of historic Southern charm, and it was warm. It was a way to get out of the New England cold, get out of New York, and just experience a place that's, known for being friendly and beautiful and historic. And it was all of that and more, and the ability to work remotely there. It just made me so happy. It was a dream come true I still, showed up full time every day at Rev Partners, but was just so stimulated by being in a different environment. And that, for my brain just needs a lot of stimulation all the time. And so being able to kind of try this nomad thing for the last year has been just the best time of my life ever.
Was this like a mental break for you in traveling to the Northwest and doing your thing? Was this just I need a change, right? I need to get out and see something different and do something. And did you hit a point of time either in your career or just, personal life and career combined that you said, I need to get away?
Yeah, so it was the opportunity presented itself and I jumped on it. So for the past, I lived in New York for 5 years and I kind of was always trying to get away in the summers because I'm from Kennebunkport, Maine. It's a small town in southern Maine, and the summers here are just magical. So kind of every year I would set it up to kind of end a campaign and go home for the summer, or convince the company I was with to let me work remote for like a month or two in the summer. So I always had this kind of rhythm of leaving New York for the summers. And then this past summer, had the opportunity to go with someone in my life to do this massive road trip, someone who kind of had the ability to do this and make it happen in a way that I would never have been able to do on my own. So that was really, it was really kind of laying all the steps in place to be able to take an advantage of an opportunity like that. And I mean, it was just stunning. Like, I've always been the kind of person that couldn't wait to see Europe or new countries, but like the United States is so beautiful when you get out to the Pacific Northwest and the West and Western Canada. It was every day seeing new state parks, national forests, waterfalls, rainbows. I mean, every single day you could not make it up. And working on West Coast time remotely, I was done every day by 3 o'clock. So getting in, adventures that same day, getting able to really get up early, take advantage of the morning, and then just have those new experiences every single day for a whole summer. I mean, I think about it and look at pictures every single day, and I hope I get the opportunity to do it again because it was just amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's take another step back, right? You went, out of school. You have, theater major, if I heard this,
Yep.
correct, right? And then you went and said, okay, like you said before we hit the record button, I don't want to audition all the time. So let's get into. You went into politics, which is I think fascinating, right? Like I remember watching, like I read the news, like a lot of it, and I don't know, I find like U.S. politics, while crazy at times, I find it cool in terms of how we have our, the whole system. And you left politics, and one of the things you
Yeah.
wrote was, as you're, giving yourself permission, if you will, to go, into something
Mhm.
new, was you have to realize your new life will cost you your old one, right?
Yeah.
How did that, like, did you want to give up politics? Did you want to go into tech? Because you went from campaign staffer to BDR, which I find
Yeah.
awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how was that? Was that like you felt like you were leaving politics, unfinished, or were you happy with that transition?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. So politics had been, I love that quote, first of all. Politics for me, I was always in communications. So I started as communications assistant, and then I was a press secretary, and then I was a communications director. So I kind of had this rise really quickly in Boston and New York and DC, and got to a point where I just had a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, the more I advanced, the more I kind of lost my love for it over the years. And what it really came down to was just during COVID, taking stock of kind of what politics was doing for me and what I could contribute, and just realizing, I was living with so much anxiety. I know we've talked about mental health, but being that communications director for another person, it's very different than being in marketing for a company. In marketing for a company, you at least have other team members. You are obviously racing to get customers, but there's no pending date that your job will be automatically cut. And in politics, you're kind of running this race towards the election, and then either way, win or lose, you lose your job. And so that would happen multiple times a year because I'd work on a campaign for 4 months, and maybe their election day was in June, and then a campaign for 3 months, maybe their election day was in September, and that, there's these possible different election days throughout the year. So I was constantly like permanently job searching, had no benefits, no retirement, always had to get my own health insurance. The job didn't end. It was every night and every weekend there was community meetings in church basements, or we had to walk in a parade, or we have to, go attend press conferences for really kind of tragic events. You kind of had to respond to them right away with a statement. If there's, God forbid, some horrible tragedy in a community, you're kind of into it no matter what. And so all these things were starting to pile up and pile up. And I actually had a couple cousins who were, my mom has a big family, and three of my cousins worked in different roles in SaaS, and they seemed so happy. They were working remote, they were paid really well. And I just remember talking to them and being like, what am I doing? I am absolutely killing myself to move other people's lives forward. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in my candidates. I always really did. And I think that's what kept me in it and motivated through all those nights and weekends was how much I believed, a certain person should be mayor, a certain person should be attorney general. But then it was just costing me absolutely everything. And I felt like there was going to be no end in sight. And when I looked ahead to people who were later in their career in politics, unfortunately, I saw a lot of people suffering from alcoholism, a lot of people suffering from drug abuse, a lot of people who just seemed really, really unhappy. And I was looking over my cousins and they seemed to have a great life. So it wasn't that much more complicated than that. I struggled with it for about a year. The hardest part was kind of losing my network that I'd built up in politics because once I left, there almost wasn't really much more to the story. Like not that I was using them in any way, but it was like I didn't have anything to offer them anymore. They couldn't really mentor me anymore. So I think the fear of losing kind of my status and my network was what I really, really struggled with for a year. And then ultimately it just came down to kind of, having this conversation with a career coach who was like, give yourself permission to be happy. And I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to jump in. And I had heard that tech companies had, these groups of salespeople who were friends and they'd go out together and they're kind of on this journey together. And I was like, that seems like so much fun compared to what I'm trying to do. I'm 20, 25. Like, why not try it? And I can always go back.
I mean, and I've talked to some people on this podcast on like what what careers translate into sales, and Julie Rader, right, was a teacher, and she went
Yeah.
into she went into CS, and then is thriving, right? You're talking about a political career into sales. If I just
Yeah.
take the political career for a second, and from what you just described, a communication director. Okay, so you have to be able to talk. You have to be able to effectively communicate in terms of written communication, right? You have to understand, kind of your point of view and defend
Yeah.
it, in terms of that. Directly translatable, right? Directly
Yeah.
translatable. And but here's where I'm going to go, and I guess this is where the theater comes in because I start seeing, your videos of like you and Elf on the Shelf, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you guys running around one of the conferences, right? Dressed up.
Inbound. Had to be inbound. Yeah.
Yes, you're running around the inbound conference dressed up like little green like magicians, right?
Yes.
And you're so happy. You can see it. You can see it in the video. You can hear it in your voice. I mean, now you're smiling. Is that what is that theater in you bringing you the joy into
Yes.
the marketing side? I mean, is that like that whole thing coming out of you?
Yes, 100%. I think I even posted a video around Inbound that said, if you could have told me I would, leave theater, not have to audition ever again, but get paid to show up in costumes and bring energy and, delight people and create content. I mean, I'm not that old, but when I was in college, content creation wasn't a job. It wasn't, you could never have expected that, now people will be getting paid to make all the parody videos that we see and all the incredible skits and just comedic videos that flood LinkedIn all day long. So the way that it has worked out is so funny. I never could have anticipated it at all, but getting the chance to show up and be theatrical, create videos, collaborate with other people who I only know from LinkedIn, and then we're both at Inbound and we're both in costumes and making videos together. It brings me so much joy. And every time I do it, I can't believe that I can make videos walking around outside and my RevOps Girl Walk series
Yes, your rev
and get
op.
and get paid to do that.
Yes, your
Yeah.
rev ops girl walk with. Now help me on this. I don't have it written down on my notes.
Yeah.
Walk with rev ops girl or rev ops girl walk. Is that it?
Yeah. RevOps Girl Walks. So
And what
it's a
I
play.
mean, where does that come from?
Yeah.
What did you see and you went, hey, wait a second, that's I can do that.
Yeah. So my boss is Rob Jones. He's the
Yep.
creative lead at RevPartners, and he is a creative genius and creative mentor. And my journey at RevPartners has really been one of him reminding me that I can show up as myself and talk about RevOps. I don't have to show up as the strategist that I'm not, because that's not authentic, right? If I show up day one and try to be an expert in RevOps, people are going to say, "Oh, wait, you were just a BDR at Reach Desk 2 seconds ago." It's not believable that I would show up and know anything about RevOps. So, this whole time I'd been trying to think of how to create content that was authentic to me, how to create a series. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a trend on TikTok called quote unquote hot girl walks, where the idea is it sounds ridiculous, but the whole idea is like women, going out with a cup of coffee, taking a walk, and kind of thinking about your goals, thinking about your vision for your life, kind of like a mental health kind of manifestation walk. And it's a big trend. And so I, took that trend and was like, well, what if I walked around with a coffee or a latte and I talked about RevOps? And at the same time, I did my first one in Vancouver when I was on this road trip, and, thought how cool would it be if I just happened to be in all these different places. So I did one at Mount Rushmore, and I did one in Grand Tetons National Park, and I did one when I was hiking the Rock of Gibraltar this summer. Like I ended up getting to do them in really crazy places. And it's been really, really fun. People have had a great reaction to it. I started doing collab versions. I did one with Sarah at Demo where we go back and forth talking about RevOps, and I want to do more of those this year. And it's just been such a fun outlet as LinkedIn has evolved to be very video focused, to instead of writing long posts about RevOps, which I'm still learning about, now I can take a blog post or take something I learn at RevPartners and grab a cute drink and talk about it like the way I would talk about it to a girlfriend or something. And that's not going to be content, for everyone in the world, but it might resonate for people who look like me or have similar experiences to me and who need to know about RevOps for their sales or marketing careers.
I love it. I'm glad to say someone was with you on those trips, because I kept wondering who's
Yeah.
filming this, right? Like
Yeah.
who's doing all these cool pictures and film? Is she walking
Yes.
up to strangers going, "Hey, I need about like 1 minute. I have to walk," and you just walk backwards with me, right? So I'm
Can
glad
you
you.
imagine? No, I,
No,
I actually, I've
I
had
kind
that
of
thought
couldn't
so many
like. I
times.
after talking to you, I'm like, yeah, maybe. You're like, "Hey, look, I need one
No.
minute. Come on," you know.
Right. I
So
could probably make that happen, but no, the person I was with on the trip was, just as into content as I was and
that's
was more than
hilarious.
happy to film. So we
That's
had a lot of fun.
hilarious. Now, you did bring up like, hey, where you are in your career, and you're very vocal about this. You said it like 2 or 3 times on LinkedIn in terms of your mental state of like who you are and who you're not, and hey, this is me, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that, right? And it kind of gets into a little bit of, but it's very, I don't know, raw is the best word. I'm going to look over it so I can read it, but you said, I'm 29, I'm not married, I'm not a home number, I'm not a homeowner, and I have no kids, right? And you just
Yeah.
kind of left it. And then I read
Yeah.
it and I just had to stop. I was like, well, damn, okay, right? And then you go into, you're like, hey, look, this is who I am, right?
Yeah.
This is just where I am in my journey and my life and my career, and this is who I am. And it was very, I don't know, it just felt like all of a sudden we got to know you real quick in terms of
Wow.
that. Why'd you write that?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think I joke about it a lot. Like, I'm turning 30 this year. Like, what do I have to show for it or anything, right? Because I do have, those friends who have kind of hit the more traditional milestones, who've bought a house, or it feels like all my friends from high school are engaged, right? And I'm like, doop-a-doo, I make TikToks about RevUps. So part of it is like some self-deprecating humor, but
Yeah.
I also think about, all of the things that I have done. I've always been following kind of exactly what interested me in a given time, exactly what I wanted to be doing, having the ability to move to different cities or, travel all around the world or switch careers or, get home to Maine as often as I could. I've loved all of the different seasons in my life. So it was kind of a way of saying, look, I'll be the first one to say I don't have the traditional societal metrics that, probably my extended family is like, what are you doing? But at the same time, I had the most amazing 2024 that I possibly could have had because I have the freedom and the flexibility to try new things or to work remotely or to, visit these incredible places. That to me is where my focus is, and that's still where my focus is for 2025, is building my career in SaaS and working remotely and taking care of my mental health and, having joyful experiences and filling my life with lots of play. And I kind of wanted to be like, look, that is valid if there's other people out there who haven't hit the milestones, but maybe, they're traveling or they're doing van life or they're building a startup or all the different things you could be doing. Just a reminder that it doesn't all have to look, maybe the way we're told by society that it's supposed to look.
I love it. I love it. I need van life. I don't know if I would do good in van life, but I mean, maybe. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
There's that commercial out there of like the Wi-Fi, like you know,
The Starlink. Oh, we
right,
had
right.
it. We had it. Yeah, it was awesome. I would do it again in
That's
a heartbeat.
but if I and you correct me if I'm wrong here, please, but I think when you talk to Rev Partners off the bat, did you create your job and say, look, I can do X? And did they create a role for you? Like, was this something where you talked to some folks and said, hey, this is who I am? And they're like, yep, we can, take your talents and use them in different spots. Was that like the conversation you had?
Yeah, a little bit. So when I reached out to Rev Partners, they had an opening for a social media manager.
Okay.
And this was about a year ago right now, actually. And at the time, kind of LinkedIn personal branding was at its crest. So I
Mm-hmm.
had been posting a ton on LinkedIn about, employee personal brands and how they're bringing so much awareness to their companies and their offerings. And look what people are doing. And every company needs to be in on this. It's absolutely incredible. So I had known Rob Jones from meeting him actually at Inbound like 2 years ago. And he
Mm-hmm.
posted this role and I messaged him and was like, that's such a cool role. Whoever gets that is so lucky, to be working with you. That's so great. And he was like, well, why haven't you applied? And I was like, there's no way I'm qualified for that. Like, I haven't worked in marketing in tech. I'm a BDR. I'm kind of trying to break in, but you guys have this fantastic brand. I don't think I could do it. And we had a number of discussions, and I had been, I really believe in personal branding to job search. So I'd been posting every single day about how passionate I was in content and community and events marketing. And I was talking about, roles that I'd had in politics that related to all three and just kind of beating that messaging drumbeat, kind of learning from my politics days of repeating your message, content, community, and events. And so when I talked to Rob, it was, of course, about social media. And I created a pitch deck of different social media campaigns I'd done for politicians. But then I also, said, look, I have this BDR experience. I want to do community marketing. I want to do events. I want to just dive in with every skill set that I had. And Rev Partners was like, that's great. They were like, okay. And Rev Partners is such a great company, led by Brendan Tolson, our co-founder, and they're so ready and excited to take people with skill sets and allow them to kind of shape their careers in the way that the company can, really use their skill sets to the best of their ability. So that's what I've been able to do. And most recently, after a year of doing content, community, and events marketing, I'm now transitioning into partnerships marketing, which was something that I didn't even really know about before Rev Partners. And, Brandon's really taken me under his wing to kind of learn how do you go to market with other companies. And I think a lot of what prepared me for this role is just how much I love people in the SaaS community, like kind of through LinkedIn, naturally over these last 3 years, I've been able to build these incredible relationships, people you've only known from online, and then you get to meet up with them finally at Inbound or at Melissa Gaglioni's boat party or, these couple places. And that really naturally has led into, why don't you build relationships with people at our strategic technical partners? So that's what I'm working on now.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that. And
Before like we get too far into this and I forget, you just made the 300 women making an impact in B2B SaaS, right?
Yeah.
I find that awesome, right? Because of like the journey you've had and because hearing the story of how like you and Rev Partners came to be, it sounds like they hired you on your talent, number one, but on the culture of to say, hey, you're a great fit, right? I can teach X and Y. I can't teach the culture aspect of it, right? Come in,
Yeah.
flourish, be yourself, learn and grow. And it sounds like that's kind of where it's kind of, it sounds like what's happening, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
so I mean, cool. If you haven't seen Cassie's stuff on Inbound in the videos, please go watch. Right? Please go watch. There's some funny. The guy's running in the lobby, right? You know,
Oh
like, hey,
yeah.
right?
When the
Hilarious,
social
right?
media manager
Yes, like when
asks
your
the
social
team to
media manager
participate.
says there's
Yeah.
content, and they start, like running. I'd pull a
Yeah.
hamstring, right? If I tried that, I'd hurt myself. But you did, you did say like in your post here on LinkedIn, and you said, "Hey, in 2024, you're traveling and you took care of yourself and you grew, professionally, yes, but also, just understanding who you are." In 2025, the words build.
Yeah.
So why'd you choose the word build for 2025? What got you there?
Yeah, so 2025 is going to be a build year for sure. I think 2024 was very exciting. It was a lot of new in every way. It was this new ideas about LinkedIn personal branding for executives and a new role and trying out new, traveling all around to new places. And in 2025, I really want to, up level my career at RevPartners, build out the partnerships program, build upon these other experiences. It's the first year that in a while that I feel like I'm not learning the company or learning the job. Like I'm deep into it. And now I just want to build upon everything that we have and also build, my personal life to see, okay, I've tried all these places. How do I build upon that and continue to try more based on everything I learned last year? Or how do I continue to build content for my LinkedIn that keeps me excited and keeps me passionate about it and is fun? How do I build upon my editing skills? How do I build upon my, personal finance lessons that I've learned kind of in every area of my life? This is 30. This is the year I'm turning 30. So how do I build, systems and structures and build upon this foundation of, hopefully the lessons that I learned in my 20s?
You'd be way you'd be way ahead of me. I don't think I learned any of that until like, I don't know, like 50 something, right? So like you're way ahead. Okay. If you get this down, just let me know because I would
Yeah,
love to I would love to kind of, get it, right?
I'm
But no,
learning
like
every
I
single day.
think like the more I go back and just look at your stuff and I hear you now in terms of like your passion for Rev Partners and your passion for the marketing and just enjoying, I don't know, enjoying life. I mean, you can just
Try.
see it, right? You're like, look, I have a great role. I have a mentor. I have mentors by plural in the
Yeah,
organization. I'm surrounded by people that really support me. I can be myself, right? I'm into an industry that I love. And oh, by the way, I get to use this theater thing when I go to conferences and do some content and just have fun. It just shows what's possible, right? And I think
yeah,
when I have like folks here, it always amazes me of what it kind of brings out. And if I had to say, one thing today, it just shows you what's possible. You're in campaign
yeah.
staff and you're like, oh, I don't want to. And, maybe I'll stay here. And you took a leap and you took a chance. And then you called up Rev Partners and you got the job from networking, right? Of,
Mhm.
of somebody you knew. And you took a chance on reaching out. And all of a sudden, here we are, and I think it's a great story, and I think it's only going to get better.
Thank
I'm
you.
really excited to see more of these, walks with RevOps, right? To
Yeah,
do some of
yeah.
that. I am
More
going
in
to one of these
store.
this year, and I think Melissa Gaglione is going to put out her date of,
Yes,
coming up. I'm going. Like I'm taking PTO. I'm going. Right.
yes.
I'm going to figure it out. I'm going. I want to meet some folks I've met on here, kind of like you say, and everybody says it's fantastic time. So I'm definitely going. Let me get to a
That's
few things
awesome.
here. Let me get to a few things here before we wrap this up that I have to get to. Little quirky. I may
Awesome.
just stay here the entire time for 3 or 4 minutes on this one. Have you
Okay.
watched Titanic 100 times? Am I
Oh my
correct
gosh.
on this?
I
I
love
didn't bring this
Titanic
up. I
so
didn't bring
much.
this up I didn't bring this up at all. I wanted to get an actual reaction, and I think I got it.
I
So
can't believe you brought that
please,
up. I love Titanic
please
so
tell
much.
me,
Like,
please tell me this because that movie is 3 hours long. We spend 300 hours watching
I think
Jack and
I think I
Rose.
have. I think I've seen that movie so many
I
times.
do my
So
homework. I
I
told you I go back. I find
yeah,
I
you
find
found this
everything there.
somewhere. I don't know how
It's
many
there.
times I've
Trust
posted
me. I'm
about it, but
like,
it's definitely in my
I'm
bio
just,
somewhere.
I'm just scrolling. I'm like, I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, wait.
I love Titanic. So when I was in middle school, this is something my middle school friends know about me. I had this weird thing that I would do where on the anniversary of the sinking of Titanic, April
Sure.
14th, 1912, I would go to bed because I was a middle schooler. I'd wake up at 11:30 and I'd watch the movie from 11:30 to 2:30, which was the exact time that the Titanic would have been sinking. This is like very bizarre. I'd watch it the exact time the Titanic would have been sinking to just like feel the emotions of the Titanic sinking. Like I was so into it. I still am so into it. I can say every word of the movie. I think it taps into like it's such a deeply emotional movie and I love Broadway. I love theater, I have these big emotions myself and that kind of, dabbles into, different challenges I've had with mental health, but I think Titanic is the best movie ever made, and no one can convince me otherwise. And it's like the history and the emotion and the oh my gosh, I could talk about Titanic forever. It's the best movie.
It's the best movie ever. Now, I
It's the best
mean,
movie
you
ever.
always hear the joke. You always hear the joke. There was room on the raft, for
Oh,
Jack, right? Like,
yeah.
right? I mean, come on, right? What's the
There were so
problem?
many other ways. Also, when there's a scene in the movie where Rose is in a lifeboat and she jumps back out to be with Jack, but if she had stayed on her seat in the lifeboat, then he could have found his raft and they only
Sure,
would have been separated for like an hour. And then
sure.
instead of separated forever,
Like, it's like,
very passionate.
we all have our thing, right? We all have
Yeah.
that thing that we are quirky. And by the way, where are your parents? Who's monitoring this? Middle school. Like, what's going on,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I would like creep down in the middle of the night and put the DVD on and like cry
Right, because we're
in the
talking
dark
years
as
ago.
like a
So you're
seventh
talking
grader.
DVD,
Yeah.
like you're not
Oh, yeah. I'd have
streaming
to
it.
switch the DVD out, and then it's 2:30 in the morning. And then
Wow.
I would make chocolate chip cookies, but I would call them chocolate ship cookies.
Sure. Who
And I would
doesn't?
wear all black. I'd wear all black and hand out cookies and just remind people it was the anniversary of Titanic, and this is what we should all be focused on. And I was in like eighth grade, and everyone was like, "You're really weird," and I was like, "This is an important moment in U.S. history, and you need to know about it."
See, I
Just
told
said
you.
that that way.
I think I'm crying. I think I'm going to spend 3 minutes right here on this whole thing, right?
I can talk
So,
about it forever. Yeah.
love it. So, look, every time I do one of these, I'm like, I have no idea where this is going to go. I don't know what we're going to hit, right? Like I said before we came on, like, I had to clear my eye. I'm like, hey, look, we'll see where it goes. And it did not disappoint. I'll tell you right now, Cassie. Like,
Aw.
it did not disappoint. Thank you so much for being on. We're gonna do it again. Hopefully, we catch up at a conference. Hopefully, we catch up at Melissa's.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm excited to see the videos and the events, and I'm excited to see how you do your partnerships at RevPartners now. I really am. So thank you again for
Thank
being on.
you. Oh, Dave, thank you so much. This has been such a joy. Highlight of my week. I know it is a Monday, but I
Hey,
mean, this has just been so much fun to catch up with you and appreciate the platform and everything you're trying to do. And definitely hope to see you, at Melissa's or at something this year. We'll have to make it happen.
absolutely. All right, for everybody else, thank you for staying with us. Like I said, it wouldn't disappoint. Hit the subscribe button, hit that share button, whatever. We'll come back next week. Take care, everybody.